Good morning, people. I was having such a hard time this morning. There's traffic. I'm already running late to work. My stupid little thing that holds my phone in the car, the little, whatever you call that thing, it's not working. It keeps falling off. I'm like, I refuse for me to express this message and put this message out to everyone, because this is a perfect example of what I was going to speak about, which is learning how to be uncomfortable, because that's the only time you're going to be able to grow. So I definitely wanted to speak about that, but for some reason it's been quite a few days. There's been things going on. And right now, it is uncomfortable, me holding this phone and trying to figure out how to get this message out to you. The sun is shining in my mouth, but I'm gonna keep it moving, and you're gonna enjoy this video because it needs to be heard. So, whatever. So I wanted to talk about being uncomfortable because some people don't realize that your comfort zone can definitely hinder you from growing in the direction and in the purpose that God has for you. So you definitely want to embrace being uncomfortable and understand that everything happens for a reason. And so as long as you keep that in the back of your mind as things are coming along in your life, you should be fine. You should always think about there always being a reason for something happening, even when you're uncomfortable. So let me give you a prime example, because most of my life I have been uncomfortable, like most of my life. So I had no choice but to embrace it and not let it consume me so much. When I was younger, me being uncomfortable all the time did get to me. I did have anxiety at a young age. My mom did the best that she could being a single mother, and me and my brother had to move all the time. We were always hopping around from apartment to apartment, because rent goes up and stuff like that. So we had to deal with being uncomfortable. Me and my brother didn't always have a room to ourselves. We had to share a room for most of our lives, until we got a little bit older. So that was being uncomfortable all the time, not knowing or not having everything that we really wanted. And at first, when you're younger, you tend to resent your parents for that, because you don't really understand. So, there was times where I didn't, I was very resentful towards my mom or my dad, for getting a divorce, I was just confused. I didn't understand why things were the way they are. And I had a lot of anger built inside, which caused anxiety inside of me and for me to act out. I was a great student in school, but at home, I did have my bad attitude. I didn't like to be touched. I didn't like to be held. Not a very affectionate person. And I just think that was a resentment and a lot of anger that I had built inside. My mother, she would force me to go to church with her and my brother. And one day I went to church. We went to some kind of concert thing at church. And that was the first time that I ever felt something move in my heart. And it's because I do have a passion for music. So there was this one lady, she sang some song. I can't even remember the exact song, but when she sang, the knot that was in my throat was, I was trying so hard just not to cry, because I didn't like to show weakness. That's what I thought it was at that time. So I didn't like to show weakness or anything like that, so I held it back. But she touched me so, it wasn't her, it was actually God, but in a way that I was I couldn't even talk. all I wanted to do from that point on was learn more about God when that happened to me. And after that, I had graduated high school. I realized after God touched me at that time, I had test after test after test after test. When I tell you, I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, hanging around people I wasn't supposed to be hanging around. I stopped going to college. Like, the enemy tried so hard to take that faith feeling that I had that at that one time when what I experienced there at church. Like, he will try to take that away from you and try to, and so I did. I mean, I took all of that away from myself. I was hanging around the wrong people. I was sneaking out of the house to go out and hang out with my homeboys. I was going to strip clubs. I was just doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. So what ended up happening was I stopped going to college because I wanted to pursue a modeling career. I did go for the modeling. I did that for about 2 years or so. And because I wanted to focus so much on modeling and acting and singing and all of that, I ended up quitting my full-time job at a dermatology office. Was it a dermatology? No, it was a chiropractor office. It was a chiropractor office. I ended up leaving there because I would go hang out with my homeboy at the strip club. And he was putting these seeds in my mind, making me think that, you know, the fast money was better. And because I was so weak-minded and because the enemy, I was so vulnerable at that time. That was around the same time that I wasn't hearing from my dad. I felt neglected. I felt like he really just, my dad just really just left me into the world without any guidance or anything like that. So I'm sorry, I just always get very emotional when I speak about my dad. So at that moment I was very vulnerable. I didn't know what to do with my life. I just wanted to feel loved. And at this time, this guy that I was talking to, I guess he made me feel that way. And he made me believe that if I want to do my modeling career and I want to be successful and I want to be able to go to the casting calls that they have casting calls that you have to audition for certain videos and for certain things, then I would, it'll be best that I make fast money. That way I can have the clothes that I want to be able to model and be able to look good. So I made all the wrong choices. I ended up believing that me making fast money was better. And I started dancing as like in a strip club dancing. And for a very long time, I didn't do it very long. Like, people can tell that I was very uncomfortable there. I was uncomfortable. I was not in my element. 'Cause it just wasn't me. Like, I would sit there and I wasn't making the fast money that I wanted, that I thought I would make or anything like that. And the reason was because I wasn't willing to do the things that most of the women there were willing to do for money. So I refused to do that. I wasn't ashamed of my body, I wasn't afraid to show my body. However, I was not willing to take the next steps to make thousands and thousands of dollars a night. Like, that was just not, it just wasn't in me. And so I felt as if it was pointless for me to be there. I would talk to guys that were there and they would literally just be like, why are you here? Like, this, they're like, you're so smart. Like, we would literally have like hours of conversations and just intellectual conversations, and they would just look at me and they would literally just give me money just for me to, just because I sat there and talked to them, because they could tell that I was there for all the wrong reasons and I didn't belong there. So it was definitely an experience, and that was the most uncomfortable situations that I have ever put myself in. And sometimes we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations and situations that are not meant for us. But again, there's always a reason and there's always a lesson to be learned. I, for so many years, didn't forgive myself for that. And I kept that grudge in me, and I always kept it in the back of my mind, pretended as if it never happened. However, it does eat you up inside. You have to learn how to just forgive yourself for things that you didn't know better. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't know. You had people speaking in your ear, making you think that these things are okay. And I stopped. One of the guys that was a bouncer there, he asked me out. He told me he didn't want me to be there. He ended up paying for me to go back to school. We ended up living together, and we lived in like this little studio, little cottage thing behind his best friend's house. We lived there like with very little. I was uncomfortable. Again, uncomfortable. Learning how to live life with very little has made me grow and made me appreciate so much more in life now that I'm older. Now that I have to work hard for my money, now that I have to save money, I made so many mistakes financially. So I just want to let everybody know that I know everyone has an uncomfortable situation that they have been in, and just because you don't learn the lesson right then and there doesn't mean that it's not for a reason. It could be years later where you finally think back to yourself, oh my gosh, like, if I didn't go through that, I would have never known how to do this, and this. So, I want you to understand that the way to your growth is to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. I know it's hard. I know people have egos. People have like something in them that just doesn't sit right when you're uncomfortable. But I'm telling you, when you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, it breaks you in a certain way for you to learn how to be vulnerable, for you to be acceptable to growth, and to also be there for other people who are in that type of time in their life. And people do look at me and say, you're very wise and you've learned a lot from a young age. And the only reason why I learned so much from a young age was because most of my life I was very, very uncomfortable, and I had to learn how to be uncomfortable. I had to learn that change and being uncomfortable wasn't going to define who I was. Whatever happened in my past, whatever was happening in my present, doesn't mean that it defined me. It doesn't mean that was my future. The only thing I could control was what the steps that I took in order to be a better person moving forward. And for a long time, it was very, very hard for me. Like, very. When I started school, for example, my boyfriend at that time, he paid for me to go back to school. I went to school. I didn't have a job. He just wanted me to focus on school, so that means I had no money. I was uncomfortable because I hardly had gas to get to school, and me and my best friend kind of shared the car trying to get to school so that way we can finish. Hardly any of us had money for food, so I would always have to rely on this man to kind of help me. And there would be times where I would walk into my car and there was just money on my steering wheel or in the car, just like for lunch or something, which I was very, very grateful for. Which is why I always believe that God puts people in your life at a stage in your life for a certain reason. Not that I would ever take advantage of that. Not that I don't appreciate it. But again, those are lessons. I was uncomfortable the whole entire time. But it was a lesson to me that people put your life in people. God puts people in your life for a certain reason. Sometimes it may be forever. Sometimes it may be just for a season. So learn how to be uncomfortable. That's where you're going to learn your greatest lessons. That's where you're going to grow the most. I have grown so much from that time till now. It still kind of moves me. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, because it is a lesson that I'm very grateful for, because it truly defines who I am today. So I hope that this helps someone today, especially because you have me crying on a Monday morning. So I hope that someone understands that whatever they're going through right now is for a reason, and it's going to help you in your future. You may not see that now, and you may hate the feeling right now, but trust me, it's a good thing for you to go through what you're going through, because God is preparing you for something much better. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm gonna go fix myself up before going to work because I don't want to be in there crying. I hope this helps someone. You can share it with people that you know may need to hear this. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. As you can see, it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable, and this is my vulnerable state that I'm sharing with you all. So definitely share with other people that are in the vulnerable state, that are going through something that they can't see past their problem right now. So definitely reach out to me, share, subscribe to my channel, and we will wait until the next video. I don't know how that one's gonna go, but hopefully I'm not crying. Okay, love you guys. I hope everything is well with everyone. If you need anything or have any questions, definitely reach out. Thank you. Bye.